This is Donna with More Than a Review, and I'm excited to be here with Maggie. We met at a conference earlier, and I have just been enamored with her. She has an exciting life and does so many things. I mean, I just think that's fascinating. I'm tired just reading them all. So we're going to talk a little bit about her and about her books, and kind of talk about even a little bit about the writing process. So Maggie, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and how you even came about to start writing.
Well, I suppose like any other real writer, and I do think of myself as a real writer now, you start early and you piddle around when you're bored in high school or even earlier. But I had a mother who was a writer, and her advice was don't, because you can't make a living at this. Go get a real job. So I did that. I went off and I became a nurse, and my background is ICU, adult, mostly ICU, with a cardiovascular specialization. And I've been in on a lot of really fascinating things because computers arrived after I got my license. So I've been in on the computerization of the healthcare industry. Now there's some stories there. Absolutely. Anyway, so one day I found myself with some time and at loose ends and somewhat jaded about life in general. And so I went looking for a diversion. And I went all over Dallas to various writers' groups with a manuscript I had actually been poking away at for many, many years and got no help at all. And eventually found the right writers' group and had the right group of people and the right milieu and the right support. And one day when we were doing critiques for each other, the gentleman who is pivotal in my career looked at the material I had and said, don't you have anything else? And I said, well, yeah, I kind of do. And it was these. And so I handed him the beginnings of book one. And he said, scrap that other, you know what, write this instead. So that's actually how I got started on this series. And I have nothing else published. It's just these.
Yeah, just these. Okay, 3 books is a big deal. I'm sure there's many aspiring writers out there that I hope to say just these.
It's about 1 per year.
Okay.
Book 4 is my current work in progress, and it's not out yet, but it's not a year yet, so I guess that's okay.
So what would you describe the books as? Because I know we're at like a mystery thriller conference, but sometimes there's subgenres, so what would you consider it?
These are, if they fall into any genre at all, these fall into the traditional category. The first one is a straightforward, standard murder mystery, whodunit with red herrings and that kind of stuff. The second one is more interesting to me because it was actually written third. This one was written next, and when I got it done, I realized there was a gap. So I had to go back and do the gap book. And the gap book, as a result, is a little more sophisticated. It has more subplots, it has more characters, and a more worldly theme to it. I've got the Mexican drug cartel in this one. And the theme of the book, hopefully without giving anything away, is that good intentions are not enough. Good people can be used by bad people for evil ends.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a whole lot more fun. Or that's a lot deeper. This is the fun book. Sorry. This is a romp. And what's happened is that the guy who does the murder, who is one of our community, he's one of us, confesses to the protagonist in chapter 3. So the question is not who did it, it's is he going to get away with it?
Wow.
And the short answer is both yes and no.
Which definitely makes you want to read it even more.
Also, it's just plain fun. There's a whole lot of fun stuff in that book. We end up in Nova Scotia in that one.
Oh, very good. Well, so do you have to do a lot of research for the books?
When it's my personal life and my experiences, all the healthcare stuff, all the Scottish stuff, no, I really don't, because it's all there already. Well, I'm not young. I've got lots of years of having gone to Scottish events and met people. No, you aren't in the book, but somebody like you is probably somewhere in there. You know, I use amalgams, but there are also some individuals who really stuck out. So sometimes if you knew them, you might be able to put a name to them. I try not to go quite that far. So I've got all of that. On the other hand, I did a lot of research on the Nova Scotia end because I hadn't been to Nova Scotia. And I was using maps and Google Earth and all sorts of treatises and so forth. And then I said to myself, I really have to go before this thing gets published. And I'm really glad I did, because I missed something. It turns out that Nova Scotia is all up and down. It's perpendicular. And that doesn't show on Google Earth. It doesn't on any of the maps.
Wow.
So they have bicycle races where they go up at an angle like this.
Wow.
Absolutely astounding what they can do. So I do research in anything I don't know, and I do a lot of it, and I hope I haven't missed anything major.
Yeah. No, it sounds like
I haven't actually been to any of these drug places.
We haven't either, so we wouldn't know any different.
Well, I'm banking on that.
So tell us, do your characters hijack your story?
They do. I've been listening to these panels. We're at Bouchercon this week, and we have this ongoing discussion. Is it better to be a plotter or a pantser? And the two warring factions are never going to agree. I'm a pantser.
Oh.
And the reason is because I want to be surprised, and I want the book to be fresh, and I can't do that if I've thought it all out ahead of time. It gets so pedantic. I've got a pedantic background. I teach, so I have to be really careful to keep those two worlds apart. And so what will happen is that one of the characters will just take over. And I've actually looked at a couple of things and said, why did you do that to me? Don't you realize I'm going to have to go back and rewrite because of what you've done? And other times it works beautifully. I've got a character that sprang full-blown from the head of Zeus, and everybody loves him, just loves this character. They want me to bring him back, and he was just a kind of an extra.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to figure that out.
So anything that you edited out of the book that you think readers would want to know?
One yes and one no. The yes is that I had to eliminate a scene which was actually set here at Reunion. I have the elevator fail because it's a murder attempt, and the elevator falls and does not kill. It does kill 3, but it doesn't kill our protagonist during the accident. And I had to do a lot of research in engineering to be able to pull that off, because there are fail-safes in place to prevent exactly that. Because nobody wants to get into the elevator in front at the top of the ball and not make it down to the ground floor. So that got cut, but I may resurrect it and use it somewhere else if I can possibly figure that out. The ones that will never see the light of day are the reams and reams and reams of material that I wrote when I was working on the original of this one. It was she's got issues. This was all psychological. There's a psychiatrist in this book, and he sat her down, and they were going through these issues, and they all mattered, but I needed to know, but nobody else does.
Oh, that's funny. Is it hard sometimes to take it out after you've spent so much time writing?
The elevator scene really was.
Yeah.
I really wanted that in that book, and it became clear that it was getting in the way of the story, and I had to simply face up to that.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that's hard for real writers to do. We're warned not to fall in love with our works, and that we're going to have to kill our darlings. We hear that. We know that's out there. And yet when it actually happens, you think, oh, but I spent months on this, and now I don't have the word count I need, things like that.
Wow, yeah. So I like to end with something fun. So what do you think readers would be surprised to know about you?
Oh, I thought that was one of the off-limit questions.
Oh, no. You've got all kinds of fun things.
I know.
You won a competition in high school.
Oh, you want that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fascinating.
I actually grew up in Dallas, Texas, and I went to school at Highland Park because we were within the territory. Don't think I'm rich, never was. No, I went to school with the Hunt girls. I'm not a Hunt girl, so there. So I was in the band, and at that time they had the girls, they got it backwards. They put the girls in the kilts, gave us the bagpipes, and taught us Highland dancing. And I was probably the worst piper they ever saw in their entire lives. I got in terrible trouble because I wouldn't practice or couldn't practice, but I was the best dancer they'd ever had. And I'm probably the only person ever to earn a high school athletic letter in Highland dancing.
Yeah. So do you think you were good at it? Is it like genetic and been passed down, or do you think that it was like, did you practice a lot?
Oh, heavens, yes.
Ah.
Of course you have to practice, it's difficult. You have to understand that all of those skills are male skills, and they had it backwards. They really did. They assigned dancing to the girls. It's really battle practice. So it takes muscle, big muscle, to do it correctly. And I do think there's a certain, I think there's a very strong genetic component, especially in communities like the Scots. Because they intermarried so much and they kind of kept it together. It was just part of what's in this book is the continuation of that culture in spite of the fact that the world around us has moved on. So yes, I do think there's a genetic component, but you also have to have the right body and the right, you have to be able to balance and things of that sort. So not everybody can do that. Just as not everybody can be a ballet dancer, and I never could. I wanted to be an opera singer.
Wow.
But I've studied for it, and I've performed on stage. I've actually done several operas, but I don't have the instrument, so I couldn't do that professionally. I do it for fun.
Wow. See, she's fascinating. I told you guys she's fascinating. That is just amazing. I love it. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll have links to her books on the blog. Thanks for joining us.
I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. And I've enjoyed meeting you.
Yes, thank you.